What do people who have literally faced death say matters most in parenting? Well, today we're breaking down their profound life lessons to help you parent without regret. From healing family rifts to finding joy in the laundry piled chaos, this episode can change how you view your role as both a spouse and a parent. Hey parents, welcome to Fulfillment Therapy. Do you want to raise your kids better and have a stronger marriage? Are you up late at night researching marriage and parenting tools and self-care tips? Do you start each day hoping for deeper connections and less chaos, but it ends with family arguments and going 12 different directions again? My name's Kendra, wife, mom, therapist, and growth enthusiast. It wasn't until I discovered how to fulfill my unmet needs that I was finally able to show up as my best self, as a spouse and parent. I realized that by meeting my needs, I could more fully meet the needs of my family, with more energy and less resentment. In this podcast, I teach parents skills like boundary setting, prioritizing personal needs, communication, and claiming ownership. Just like my clients, you'll be shocked by the improvement in your marriage, parenting, and personal life when you focus on fulfilling your important, unmet needs. Ready to prioritize yourself so you can quit mentally throat punching people? Then grab those earbuds and head outside, and let's rock and talk. Welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy. I'm your host, Kendra Nielsen, and today we are exploring one of my favorite topics. I don't tell people about it a lot because sometimes they think it's a little weird, but I am fascinated with death, and more specifically here, not just death, but near-death experiences, and likely that is shaped from losing my father at a young age. So since losing him, I've always thought about the afterlife and what comes next. And I just eat up all those different experiences from people in all walks of life, all religions, and I try to learn from their stories. Now, there's a lot of opinions on these things. People think it's not a hard science or anything like that. But there is something amazing about learning from people that have had such a close brush with death that I just love. For example, recently I've been watching these videos on YouTube by Anthony Chene, Chene, and he does such an incredible job at sharing all of these different stories, like I said, from all walks of life. And I have been impressed again and again at their takeaways, at their insights. Now, it doesn't mean every one of those stories perfectly lines up and maybe with your background or your views, but even still, there's beautiful lessons to be gleaned from them. And I want to share some of those with you today because they very much help me, and I really believe they'll help you if your mind and your heart is open. So I want to start with just a quick, simple visual. Imagine you're Zoe, a busy mom of maybe 3 kids, rushing to get the kids to school, and you're stressed, you're running late, you're snapping at everyone, and suddenly you slip on the stairs and everything goes black. Well, in that moment, you find yourself floating above your body, watching paramedics work on you. And yet you feel this overwhelming sense of peace and love. You might see a bright light or a tunnel of some sort, and you're greeted by loved ones that have passed on. They show you scenes from your life, but not just the big moments. They show you these small acts of kindness that you've completely forgotten about or didn't even think really mattered. Like maybe the time you comforted a crying stranger in the grocery store, or maybe even the patience you showed your child when they were throwing a tantrum and you responded really well that time. And you realize that those collective moments matter more than you ever knew. Then, in this hypothetical situation, you're told that it's not your time and you're sent back. So Zoe wakes up in the hospital a few days later with a new look on life. But how did this experience change her? I want to unpack that today with a few common threads in NDEs. And if you don't know what that means near-death experiences, and how they can transform our approach to life and relationships. When I was watching all of these videos, I was trying to make all these notes, and I finally just went to audio messages because I had all of these thoughts all over. And there's certain core elements from these near death experiences that I want to share. In each one of these experiences, there was overwhelming peace and love. And it wasn't just simple love, it was complete, unconditional love. Now, most of these people in these experiences described this feeling very vividly and in a very lengthy way because it was so transformational for them, because it is so different from their earthly experience. Like, it was so tangible, so real, so overwhelming and memorable. And I loved hearing how they talked about it. They even felt this way when they had made a lot of mistakes or when they saw all the things that they wish they would have done differently. They were still left with that feeling of that unconditional love. Almost all of those experiences also had a life review, and they talked about it almost like this panoramic review of their lives, seeing not just their actions, but the ripple effect on others. And that's part of why I love talking about the ripple effect, because we don't even know how many lives we are reaching. And that's largely why I'm doing podcasting, because I want to reach more people and help more people, especially when I don't feel like I'm necessarily that effective in my day-to-day life. And as I get hyper focused on different things, like, I just don't know how many people I'm truly helping. And maybe you feel the same way too. In that life review, they often focus on how much love they either gave or withheld, rather than on just material achievements or things that we think would be of more worth here, like your degree or how much you earned or what material things that you had that you were proud of. That didn't matter at all in that life review. Another common theme was an encounter with a deceased loved one or some sort of spiritual being. And many of them reported that they didn't know who they were at the time, but later on discovered that it was some extended family member that they didn't know on Earth. Well, these beings often guide them through their experience and bring them that comfort and that peace. And they also give them insights or training about their life's purpose. It almost reminds me of a mentor, like an educational mentor that you're very close to and love very deeply. And I love that that's how they're guiding and instructing, because so many of these also talk about how Earth is simply a training ground. It's all about experience. It's all about teaching us and not about condemning us or judging us or punishing us. And I love that perspective. Dr. Raymond Moody coined the term near death experience, and he said, "What I have found is that the near death experience is a catalyst for the loss of the fear of death. And that opens up the possibility of living life in a much fuller and more satisfying way." I think that's what I love about it too. Since losing my dad and losing my brother, I often wonder what they're experiencing on the other side. But not only that, their passing reminded me that we have this one life to live, and how are we going to live it fully? Because we don't know when our last day is. I'll try to remember to put the link in the show notes of all of those videos so you can check them out yourselves, but they're amazing. And I continue to think about those lessons that I learned from it about personal growth. For example, these people really learned how to prioritize love and compassion. They talk about how important it is to have that kindness and that love in our daily interactions. Now, some of them use different vocabulary, but many of them talk about vibrations or even just having good intentions, good thoughts for others, and seeing the beauty in them. Even that is so transformational and creates a ripple effect. So I've been trying to do that as I go through my day, just thinking positive things about everyone around me, thinking about that love and that joy, and not focusing on the judgment, but simply that unconditional love for everyone I encounter. A lot of NDEs return with a strong desire to live true to themselves and their values that maybe was missing before. For example, maybe a mom died and she came back remembering her passion for art and showing her kids the importance of following their dreams and living fully and living intentionally. There's a lot of experiences like that in those videos. Another thing that almost every one of them focused on was embracing that present moment and remembering to have that deep appreciation for the beauty of everyday life. Now, most of them, it was very difficult for them to come back to Earth because it was so dreary compared to what many of them called home or heaven or whatever you might want to call it. And that was a struggle, and yet they also recognized more fully than they ever did before how miraculous those simple things are, like a sunrise or, as cheesy as it sounds, like a baby's smile or a toddler's laughter, or any of those interactions or beautiful moments around us, they said that that did feel like home, like heaven. And it's all around us, but we just don't necessarily slow down to recognize it. One thing that you can do in your present life without even needing a near death experience is practicing that same appreciation by sharing, maybe at dinner time, 3 things you appreciated about others that day, or 3 ways that you showed unconditional love to others that day, whatever that might be. Anita Murjani is an author and NDE survivor, and she said this: I understood that my purpose now would be to live from this expanded perspective and to share the truth of what I have learned with others. That's why so many of them are sharing their story, because they recognize that we're missing the point in our hurry and our hustle and bustle of living, that we forget to truly cherish this experience. Another common theme that came up a lot in these videos was cultivating those deeper relationships. And these people that experienced this often returned with this heightened ability to empathize and connect with others as they understood every layer of their life. Like they truly walked in their shoes as they were able to see all of their experiences and understand why they responded or did the things they did, because they saw it all before them and they had this deep empathy that they'd never experienced before. And they brought that back to some degree and were able to continue that maybe in a lesser amount, but to not forget that because of how powerful it was. So, what we can learn from that is those connections are what will bring us true joy and fulfillment. And we can start now appreciating those things instead of trying to change others or focusing on what they're not doing and judging them. So, that could look like a husband who actively listens to his wife without trying to fix her, and just be present with her and love her and appreciate her beauty and her own unique personality. Another thing that I loved to hear them talk about was forgiveness and letting go. As they were able to more deeply understand everybody, like all of their different family members that maybe they'd struggled with for years, they recognized how almost silly it was to hold grudges when they understand how they arrived there. And they just simply loved them more fully and met them where they were at. And they continued that when they came back. Now, I'm sure they were not all perfect by any means, but they remembered these lessons enough to change the trajectory of their life. A lot of them, when they came back, they reached out to those estranged family members and they healed those old wounds to create greater harmony that they hadn't experienced for maybe decades. And we can learn from that by doing the same thing. We don't have to go through these experiences to learn from this, whether you believe these things or not. Another thing that I loved watching in these experiences was that parents that had these experiences came back and really focused on teaching their kids about love and compassion. And not only that, but that interconnectedness of all beings. And I know it sounds funny, but I always think about this when I think about that interconnection. And that's the movie with the tall blue people, Avatar, not like the cartoon, but those Avatar movies. And that's how their people were. They were so connected to one another, like they did something with their hair or whatever it was. And they were able to feel that interconnectedness among all of those beings. And I thought that was such an amazing concept. I truly felt like there was something like that on Earth for us, but that maybe we're not tuned into it enough, but maybe we could be. And I still believe that. I think that's beautiful and true. And that's essentially what these people were saying about these NDE experiences. Dr. Eben Alexander is a neurosurgeon and an author of The Proof of Heaven, and he said this: love is, without a doubt, the basis of everything. Not some abstract, hard to fathom kind of love, but the day-to-day kind that everyone knows. The kind of love we feel when we look at our spouse and our children, or even our animals. Isn't that beautiful? Love is, without a doubt, the basis of everything. And that is very much what they talked about. It's just such a powerful, transformational thing that I can't really adequately convey unless you go watch these things yourself and you hear their messages. So how do we apply this to our life? Why does this matter? Why am I talking about near-death experiences when that seems a little bit of a stretch when it comes to mental health and wellness, but not so much about fulfillment? Many of those that have near-death experiences adopt regular mindfulness when they come back. And this renewed sense of peace and connection as they do so, because they recognize that so many of those things that they did in their lives were distractions before. Like they were completely missing the point. So this might look like a busy parent setting aside 10 minutes each morning for meditation or prayer or journaling just to reconnect and be still. And as a result of them doing this, they're more patient and present with their family, and they know that those relationships are the whole point. Another thing we can learn from this is how important those acts of kindness are. Again, that doesn't have to be these big things, but small things and even our thoughts about other people. This could be sending a quick text message. This could be anonymously leaving something on a doorstep, like a gift card or something like that. That could be leaving $1 on somebody's dashboard. Like, it doesn't have to be big, it can be very simple. Another thing, they teach us to cultivate that gratitude and appreciate life's simple pleasures that are truly miraculous, even though we've started to forget what a miracle it truly is. We can practice this by starting a new tradition, maybe sharing a golden moment of the day and foster that positivity and that connection with our family. I know we try to do this and it doesn't always work consistently, but getting in that mind frame of seeing the good in our lives. And last but not least, they teach us in these experiences to redefine our success. So it doesn't really matter what degrees we get in the long run. It doesn't matter what car we drive. It doesn't matter how good we look on our resume. But it matters how we are connecting to those that we love. If we're being present, if we are staring at our phone, if we're getting sidetracked, or if our loved ones really know that we love them and that we are being present with them. I want to go back to Zoe's story from the beginning. So after her NDE, she made significant changes, and she started each day with a gratitude practice and focused on the beauty of her children and her relationships. She became more patient over time and realized that a messy house or arriving late at an appointment wasn't worth the stress. She started volunteering more and sharing her experience. She deepened her relationships and practiced more active listening and expressing that love more fully without that judgment that she had had for so many people before. She not only became more fulfilled, but she became a more present and loving parent and a spouse. So we can learn from these experiences without having to go through them ourselves, that maybe we are missing the point, that maybe we're rushing too much and not soaking in the goodness of this life that is all around us right now, and it's not conditional upon something that we haven't achieved yet. Remember, my friends, you do not need to have a near-death experience or even believe them to apply these lessons in your life. When we embrace love and that authenticity and that presence, we can transform our relationships and find that greater fulfillment as individuals, as parents, and as partners. Thank you for listening today, and check out those videos if that interests you. Maybe you don't do a deep dive like I do because I have so much curiosity for the death experience. As weird as that sound, I know. But if you are, I'll put them in the show notes. Don't forget to check out our courses that will also help you take your life to the next level. And that is for personal growth with Ignite Your Life. That's for marriage in Mend Your Marriage, and that is for parenting in Heal Your Home. You can check that out on our website at fulfillmenttherapy.org. And there you can also access our blog. You can sign up to become a podcast guest if you feel like you have a story you'd love to share. Or you can also book me for one of your events or your podcasts if you are a podcaster or have a platform like that. Thanks for listening today, my friends. I hope you will take something away from this and just focus on one tiny thing that you can do to fully embrace this life and take it to the next level. This is Kendra Nielsen, thanking you for tuning in on Fulfillment Therapy. Until next time, my friends, keep growing, keep loving, and live this life fully. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, chances are someone else would too. Would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who's looking for greater family fulfillment? And while you're sharing, tell me what you think about the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It refuels me when I hear this podcast is helping you. No matter what your house or your hair looks like, I'll meet you back here every Monday and Thursday morning for more episodes. Until then.